For the past 15 years, I have been working very closely with shamans of Peru, with 3 different lineages of shamans in Peru. I originally set out to meet shamans, to find healers in 2003 when I was diagnosed with cancer and was given a very grim image of 3 months to live. That is what I think is referred to as the cosmic 2x4. I was always interested in shamans and in the power of the metaphysics and the power of healing, but nothing got me more motivated than getting a diagnosis and getting a 90-day sentence. I traveled through Mexico and all the way down into Peru. When I set off, I decided that I was going to go to any extent to go to the top of any mountain, the depth of any jungle, or in any neighborhood that I needed to in order to find shamans, in order to find healers, someone that would actually help me, someone that could save me. I stand here today, 17 years later, alive, cancer-free, essentially happier than ever, taller than ever, and definitely more on mission than ever. My purpose in life is very clear, and my mission in life is very clear. And that, to be more specific, is to spread more about shamanism, to share the way of the Incas, to share the way of the shamans of Peru. The Queros that are in the Sacred Valley in the Andes, as well as the curanderos, which can be found throughout Peru. And of course, also to give credit, love, and appreciation to the ayahuasqueros that in the depths of the jungle, of the Amazon jungle, that helped me clarify, helped me clear my body, and helped me move my consciousness to a whole new level. When we look at the history of shamanism, there are history books that go anywhere from 20 to 100,000 years. Essentially, it is my belief and my understanding that the shamans have been the healers and the doctors from the time of humanity. The time humanity was born, so were the healers. There's especially one time in history where there's a big shift. There is a huge evolutionary leap at some moment where we can see that the humans developed a whole new brain, the prefrontal cortex. It is a moment of shift from being a Neanderthal, that scared perhaps, that being that is more mammal than anything else and is fighting for survival, is hiding, is in constant effort to survive. With that leap, where the humans receive a brand new brain, the prefrontal cortex, there is a leap of way of thinking. There's a leap of way of being, right? The prefrontal cortex holds very specific abilities that we didn't have before we had it. So in the prefrontal cortex, you're going to find love, compassion, empathy, intuition. It is the center of the brain that gives us these capacities to be able to be with others, to be able to care for others, to be able to feel connected with others, and to be able to rise above our own self. With the lack of empathy, we are alone. If I can't feel you as a brother or a sister, then I am totally isolated. So I am still in that place of fight or flight. If I can't feel empathy, and if I can't feel sympathy, and if I can't feel, again, that you're my brother or my sister, then I'm all alone in the world, which makes me, puts me in a place of danger. I may not be able to survive. In essence, as I traveled into the jungle and found myself in the jungle of Peru with the Shipibo tribe in a fire ceremony, I found myself being transported 20,000 years ago. I found myself first of all, alone and in a place that I didn't know, a jungle filled with big predators and darkness and the unknown, and also an unknown language. At that campfire with the rest of the village, a tribe there with about another 18 people there, I sat and listened to a shaman woman as she went through stories throughout most of the night. It literally dawned on me at that moment that what we have here is still alive. Shamanism is alive today in the depths of the jungles, at the tops of mountains, in remote areas in the world, throughout all the continents of the planet. It's not something that ever stopped, but we can return to that a little bit later. What I really saw in that moment was that, like that night around the fire, this was a night that's been repeated for thousands of nights, for thousands of years. The original shamans, the original ones that decided and invited people to come into the circle and started going into storytelling, those were the ones that had a more, if you want, awakened prefrontal cortex, and realized that if we all get together at night over and around a fire, then there's much more chance for everyone to survive. If one or two were isolated away from the fire, there was much more of a chance that they would be taken and would disappear in the middle of the night from bigger predators. So, first of all, to define shaman and to define the word itself, shaman, comes from the Tungusic language and means the knower. The knower, he or she who knows, who has knowledge, who has understanding. So in each village, in each tribe, there was a man or a woman who knew a little more, who had increased the capacity of attention outwards, had increased their capacity of focusing and finding out more about the plants and the medicine, or understanding how the animals moved and when. They had more of a capacity to watch the moon and begin to realize that the moon had phases. They had more of a capacity to sit in patience and watch the wind and see how that would change throughout the month and the seasons. So as they became the observers, as they became the knowers, they immediately, while they increased the intellect or the capacity, if you want, of the prefrontal cortex, of course, automatically their empathy increased. Their care for the rest of the people in the tribe increased. So they gathered everyone around the fire. They realized that by storytelling, everyone would want to be around the fire and would stay around the fire. The curiosity, the sweetness, the sensation of safety and gathering. As storytelling begins, it is a dawn of a new era for humanity. As storytelling begins, the shaman, who is the pioneer of human consciousness, the one man or woman who understands there's more than what is seen at a glance, we have a new era. The pioneer shaman begins to tell stories, and as he or she are telling stories, they're watching and they're noticing. They're noticing that within the group, there might be 1, 2, or 4 or 5 people that seem to be more engaged. Those are the ones that were leaning in a little bit more. And as I did in that fire in the Amazon jungle with the Shi people, I realized that when I leaned in more, I would feel more heat in my prefrontal cortex. That heat itself, for nights and thousands of nights, that increased the heat in the front side of the body, increased the blood circulation, increased, literally physiologically helped the prefrontal cortex grow and the human beings evolve. Now, as the storytellers go and they move deeper into the stories and they start beginning to talk about how the jaguar moved, how the deer moved, where the fish were, how the sun was rising. And as they watch some of the participants engage more into the storytelling, they started engaging with these people even more. They began to assign roles. They'd say, you two over there leaning in towards, you can be the jaguar, you can be the deer. You guys over there, I can see you're more participating, you're moving while I'm telling the story, you're wanting to be a part of it. You can be the flock of birds. One person that seemed to have moved really closer to the fire and closer to the shaman to hear her words even more, she said, you can be the sun. Here, we'll give you this jaguar's fur and you can put it on, sit up on the stump and you will be the sun. So, in essence, as storytelling is born, there's an evolution of consciousness and a huge leap of consciousness for humanity. As these people are beginning to participate and begin to have roles assigned to them, essentially theater is born. So as the shamans give birth to theater through their storytelling, they add this yet one more huge leap of evolution, because here we have something that has never happened before in human history. The birth, with theater, the birth of metaphor and symbolism comes. And metaphor and symbolism is what allows us to be in a whole different consciousness and level of consciousness as a species. So as theater is born, as that one person was assigned to play the role of the god sun, the one that brings the heat, the day, the food, the safety, and everything, it was noticed, the shaman noticed that the next day, as this person who was playing the role of the sun was walking down the path, the people that were watching from the tribe, when they saw the sun, they all fell to their knees and bowed to him. Even the next day, not understanding, yet not being evolved enough to understand that this was a metaphor, taking things still to face value and what was given to them. This is a jaguar, it may eat me. This is a fish, I will eat it. I am very cold, I will die of cold. It is too hot, I need water. So living in a realistic and absolutely realistic life, when they meet and they're told that this person is the sun, they believe it and buy it in face value and don't know the difference, so still the next day are bowing to this person. I feel that the shaman and this person got together and said there is something here to be seen. In essence, this is a moment where religion is born. In essence, this is a moment where humans decide, that perhaps 2 or 3 or 5 more evolved humans in that tribe at the moment decide that we can help ourselves. We can really help the tribe if we have someone that is a direct spokesman or spokeswoman for the Almighty Creator. Religion, theater gives birth to symbolism, and symbolism gives birth to religion. But furthermore, as the shamans are saying the stories, they're beginning to find the practical application of their storytelling. They're beginning to share, for example, what snakes are poisonous. They have caught one of the poisonous snakes. The shaman is showing this snake to the rest of the people in the tribe and saying, this snake can kill you. Be very careful when you see it. They also begin to notice that when there's full moon, there is no fish. Fish won't come to the surface, but rather they prefer to come close to the flame and darker nights. And fishing is more applicable at nights with no moon. So in essence, what we have here is education. We give birth, the shamans are the first ones to give birth to education. They educate people. They educate people on what animals are dangerous and what are not. Techniques on how to fish and how to hunt. They educate people now, especially when difficulties come in life and difficulties appear. when a person would come and say, I have a cough, I can't breathe, everyone would point out and say, go to the one that knows, go to the knower, go to the shaman. And the shaman, being that individual who had focused more on noticing what the plants do, what the trees do, what the flowers do, had the capacity and had arrived already to the understanding that here, if you take this mint or peppermint and you boil it with water, or you even eat it straight up, it will open up your lungs, it will allow you to breathe deeper and easier. The shamans noticed that when the person went and said, I have a bellyache, my belly aches, they would say, here, eat some of this chamomile. It will be really good and soothing for your stomach. So what we have here is the birth of medicine. The first doctors, the person that everyone goes to when they have a physiological ailment. The person that everyone goes to when they're in pain, when they are sick, when they break a hand or a leg. They go to the shaman because the shaman knows how to put together banana leaves, how to put together some of the herbs and some mud and create a cast. So not only do we have medicine and the first doctors, but we also see that they're beginning to get good at, maybe some of them are becoming the orthopedics. They're beginning to be good at healing ailments of all sorts. And even at that moment where a young teenager picks up all the fruit from the jungle floor, which have been ripened and which are fermenting and now fully alcoholic, and eats all of those and becomes drunk because of the alcohol and creates a ruckus in the village and the tribe, everyone gathers and says, go to the knower. And as that youngster goes to the knower sits him or her down and says, what is the problem? What are you feeling? What is making you behave this way? What is making you feel that you want to be separate from the rest of us? And helps that person be integrated with themselves and with the rest of the tribe. And in other words, clearly what we have here is the birth of psychotherapy. So the shaman, if you want, in an umbrella understanding of what a shaman is, the shaman is a man or a woman who has clarity, has more clarity than the group around them, and is able, with that clarity, discernment, to offer help and to create change. And for me, that is the biggest part, that a shaman is the person that can create change. The difference between a shaman and an ordinary person is that an ordinary person usually looks around and says, well, this is our reality and this is it. Where a shaman says, this is our reality and it can be transcended. There can be shift and there can be huge change in it. And in that sense, for me, in the modern world, at least in my books, I would say that one of my most beloved shamans is Carl Jung. Carl Jung in the 1900s really created a change of how the whole of Europe looked and viewed at reality in the whole world. Carl Jung opened the doors to New Age, to the New Age that came. Another great shaman for me was Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla would say, I can create light in the middle of the dark, and everyone would say, no, that is impossible. Yet he did. He created the electric light bulb, he created electricity, he created the remote control, he created x-rays, he created TV, he created radio, he created the VHF radios to talk to each other. He essentially created everything that we know now as reality. If you go to the date before Nikola Tesla, our reality was a whole different reality. And in that sense also, in my books, I would say Steve Jobs was a shaman. I see it every time that someone would go up to Steve Jobs and say, well, we can't do it. We can't see someone and talk to him at the same time through our cell phone. Steve Jobs would say, no, we can, and yes, we will. And it took the time it took, but it became a reality. And one can say, well, that is technology. Yes, it is. And technology is a reality, and the reality that didn't exist before and exists now. Consciousness, technology, awareness, any sort of communication is a part of reality. So shamans today, one of the things that I felt when I ventured out to find shamans, I left from Athens, Greece, which was a city that I lived in most of my life. As I left Athens, Europe, and came to the States, I still was in a frame of mind that I am headed out to go through Mexico and go to Peru, Central and South America, in search of something that is very rare and perhaps maybe even extinct, or it's almost extinct, so it will be very hard for me to find. It will be almost impossible. As I began my journey through Mexico, I was surprised to meet several shamans. Some of them came by the name curanderos, some of them came by the name brujos, some of them came from the name chamanos, and some of them came by the name grandmother or grandfather. And I met, and my heart opened. I met people that were very sweet, very kind. Some of them were very knowledgeable and seemed powerful, and some of them gave me a lot of help. If anything, to begin with, a lot of help psychologically. I started feeling that I was beginning to get somewhere. As I met with a shaman in Yucatan who I sat with under a tree and had a session, he rattled. He rattled in front of my body. He rattled in the whole left region of my abdomen and then all the way up to the right region of my abdomen. I could hear the difference between the pitch of the rattle from the left side to the right. So he rattled and rattled and rattled, and he would come back. He rattled and rattled, and every time he would come back to the right side, he would pause, and I could see his whole energy would sink a little bit. And he said to me, "Hermanito, my little brother, these things over here we can work with, we can help heal, but this over here, you have to go to the shamans up north." When he said to the shamans up north, I imagined all the way up to the North Pole. I imagined that I would be looking for the Inuits, that I would be on a sled with dogs pulling me, trying to find Eskimos and igloos that are shamans. And I said, "Where? In Antarctica?" And he looked at me as if I was a fool, and he said, "No, hermanito, en Estados Unidos." "No, my little brother, in the United States." And I said, "But there are no shamans in the United States." And he looked at me, nodding his head, and he said, "Yes, there are. They're called surgeons." And that for me was a great revelation. That for me was a huge moment of expansion of consciousness, of my own consciousness. That by itself was a huge healing moment of division that I lived in. I believed in Chinese medicine, I believed in healing, and I was very much holding back, feared Western medicine, didn't trust the business side of Western medicine. Years later, still alive, I know very clearly that I owe my life, and I'm grateful to Dr. Pinto from the National Institute of Health, who I had a surgery with and released my right kidney through a laparoscopy in the National Institute of Health. I know that without that surgery today, I would not be here. But I also know very, very well that without my studies with the shamans that continued right after the surgery, that I went deep into, I still would not be here today. If I would return after that one surgery back to my life in Athens and continue to be who I was, as I was, cancer was sure to return. My destiny line to death was sure to be expressed. It is important for us, and now as a healer, as a person that offers healing sessions, when I hear people saying, I won't go to Western medicine, I strongly urge them to do so. And when I hear people that go only to Western medicine say, I won't go to a shaman and I don't want to hear about a naturopath or a nutritionist, I strongly urge them to do so. It is important to balance all the aspects of life. It is important to bring in everything that we can, everything that all of humanity has strived to come to be able to heal one another. With that said, I continued after my surgery in 2005 to study with the Caros, Don Francisco and Don Sebastian, with my beloved curandero, Don Manuel Portugal, as in essence a sorcerer in Jaguar, a very powerful and beautiful, loving human being, and with an amazing ayahuasquero, Maestro Panduro, in the jungle of Peru, close to the borders of Bolivia. One of the things that dawned on me was that there was no village that I didn't find a shaman. There was no part of the jungle that I didn't find a shaman. There was no place in Central and South America that I could not find a shaman. And just doing a little research, it was really clear and very easy to realize, to find that shamans are not something that's becoming extinct or rare. Shamans have been the doctors, the therapists, the orthopedics, the theater creators, directors, the spiritual leaders, and still are. They can be found through Africa and all the tribes, sharing with the tribes their medicine from barks, from stone, from mud. They can be found up in England by the name of the Druids. They can be found in Ireland. They can be found in Australia, the ones that take the walkabout, the Aboriginals. Shamanism is alive today, and they can be found in India. Ayurvedic medicine itself is a shamanic practice. They can be found in China. The Taoists, those who created Kung Fu, the martial arts, and acupuncture are those who tap in to other realms and download this information of how the body works, how it functions, how they can heal. Essentially, shamanism is alive, has always been alive, and thrives throughout the whole planet. It is my belief that more than 50% of the planet still heals with shamans. It is my belief most people of the planet would not have $1 to be able to afford the doctor, the hospital, or the aspirin. I still return to Peru every year to work with my teachers, to learn more, to deepen my knowledge, to understand more, and to be in their presence, and to be in the presence of the jungle, to be in the presence of the Andes, to be in the presence of this energy that has not shifted because of technology. When we walk through the jungle, it is really clear that the indigenous people that live there, even the young people, that when I go down now, I have guides that are maybe 20 years old, and they have been born there, and they still live there as people lived there 1,000 years ago and 2,000 years ago. The only difference is that they get to wear a shirt that some tourist brought. But in essence, nothing has changed in the way they are. Maybe one of the things that's changed is their language. They also speak Spanish now because of the colonialism and because of the conquistadors. Another story to be told later. But in essence, all of the medicine and medicinal plants that we find, for me, the biggest pharmaceutical company on the planet is the Amazon jungle. And it is very clear that most of the medicine that we have in the pharmaceuticals, in the Western world, come from a base of something that is found in nature. Even penicillin is found in nature. Everything is given to us from nature. In essence, we have created the ability to extract out of plants some specific elements, active ingredients, and also somehow amplify them and accelerate them so they work faster in our body, which is wonderful. And especially in cases where someone is in danger, if life is in danger, there is nothing faster than Western medicine and medication. When you extract only one element from a plant, it is going to be imbalanced. The rest of the elements that gave it the wholesomeness of it, as they are not there, taking only a part will result in that medicine having contraindications. I think what is really important is to examine what may be important to me and to you as a Western person. I honor traditions, and as I honor ancient traditions like the Buddhists, like the Tibetans, like the shamans in Peru or in Colombia and Mexico, I also honor the Western civilization. And while there's a lot to be said, and the Western civilization, industrialism and technology have created problems and are leading to the destruction of the planet, there's something to be said about how positive it is, thanks to Nikola Tesla, how positive it is to be able to have a house with central heating, central air conditioning, how positive it is to be able to have a car or a bus that we can send our children to school, how we can have these buildings where our children can go to school, or have a building where it's a hospital and people can be saved, etc. So modern technology and the Western world give many, many gifts and are a part of the evolving consciousness of the human being. I love living and being of the modern world, and I choose to continue to live in the modern world. And I love, again, the comforts and the accessibility and all the gifts of the modern world. It is great. Again, it's a part of the human evolution, and there is nothing wrong with it. There is only one thing, though, that something was taken from us. And that moment in history was called the Dark Ages. In the Dark Ages, the Spanish Inquisition started this huge campaign. And this campaign, three things were persecuted: the feminine, the animals, and magic. It is a moment where this power that governed wanted to install fear into people and wanted to claim all power. In this moment, a government decides to claim all power above all its subjects, all human beings. And notices that there's three powers that are really perhaps moving against that. The power of the animals, the beauty of their nature, the feminine, the amazing power of women and the circles women would create and the songs women would create, and the power they had of creation, of giving birth, of creating life itself, and also creating remedies, creating nourishment, etc. And of course, the third thing that was persecuted during the Dark Ages was magic itself. Magic itself, which was found both in the feminine and in the animal. This trilogy of power, of the beauty of nature and animal life, the beauty of the feminine and the creator of life, and magic, which is a connection to the divine energy, a personal connection to the divine energy, were all persecuted. Even to the extent of there's a pan-European gathering of all the churches, from the Church of England to the Spanish Inquisition to the the Catholic Church of Rome. They all gathered together in the early 1700s. And there was a big, big gathering to decide on two things. Do animals and do women have souls? It took 24 hours for them to decide that animals do not have souls. And it took close to 1 month for them to finally decide that women do have a soul. As animals are put in a category of a thing that does not have a soul, along with this big statement of the church that human beings are the favorite creation of God, this automatically puts all animals, all other mammals, the millions of species that inhabit, that coexist in the planet with us, it puts them in a secondary level of importance, and it puts them in a level of that they are here to be used to work for us, and they're here to be eaten, and they're here to be hunted for a trophy, and they're here only as a danger and as a menace. Of course, as we understand, this is beginning to change our relationship. These are the beasts and we are the civilized humans. Begins to essentially install for the Europeans and later on Americans, for the first world people, a specific way of thinking, which essentially makes them better than something else. This, in essence, is the seed for judgment, and this is the seed for supremacy. Human supremacy is born of colonialism. Human supremacy is born along with the Spanish Inquisition and with the Crusades, as we move, as the white person moves through Europe to take at will all of Central and South America, Mexico, Central and South America, and to go down to Africa, to teach others which God is right and which God is wrong. White supremacy comes along with this idea that somehow we are the ones that are gifted and the rest, like the rest of the mammals, will be under our influence. This is not a political statement, this is a historical fact. The beauty of the American Indians, of the Apache, of the Cherokee, of so many tribes of America is not there today. The beauty of the Aboriginals of Australia is not there to be seen today. The beauty of the Taínos, the Arawaks, there was more than 120 million people that spoke the Inca language, Quechua. 120 million people across Central and South America, all the way down to Argentina. The Inca civilization, they spread all the way to the Caribbean islands, to what we know today also as Cuba, as Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, etc., where all this beautiful civilization that was wiped out, either by sword or by sickness that was brought with the blankets, was the measles and other sicknesses. Leaving politics behind and what happened 500, 400, 300, and to 100 years ago, I just want to jump and come to today. Today in a modern world where anything from computers and internet, airplanes, our ability to travel and our ability to exchange information, even the evolution in the technology of science, medical science, etc., has brought us yet again to this new realization. Quantum physics and the ability to measure things that we could not measure before has brought us again to a very beautiful new place. We're beginning to understand what the shamans have been telling us and what the yogis have been telling us. We're coming into a beautiful place of bringing over ancient technologies that had been pushed out, and namely the technology of yoga and the technology of shamanism. They had been persecuted. I love the Western world and its commodities, its safety, and all the gifts it's given us. And there's one thing missing, and that one thing that is missing is what we lost back then in the Dark Ages, and that is essentially magic. The magic itself, a direct relationship to the divine energy, which is in all things at all times. And of course, the freedom of women, the power of the feminine, and of course, the beauty of the animals and the animal rights, the rights that they should have as an equal species that shares a planet, that shares a habitat. As we're missing these three things, we're essentially understanding the world with a lack. We're understanding the world with a bit of consciousness missing. And these evidence, if you want, this part of consciousness as it's missing, it does not allow us to be whole human beings. The feminine, the beauty of the feminine, the creativity, the ability to create and to nourish, animals, the wildness of the animals and each one of their natures and what they teach us, and magic, the magic in a sunrise, the magic in a seed becoming a tree, and magic of a handful of seeds becoming a forest. These elements are what we're missing, and it would be wonderful, and it is wonderful, to see as they're returning back. And as we have the gifts of the Western world, we're now retrieving, as in a soul retrieval, we're also essentially retrieving that part of the soul that has been missing, that part of the consciousness. When I see people in need of therapy, I am grateful for therapists and those who help them. But what I see in people in need of therapy more often than not is the fact that there is a human being lost and trying to find its place, a man or woman who's seeking to once again find their personal power, find their identity, find where they belong, and they can't because half of the evidence is taken away. We are mammals. We cannot not have a relationship, an equal relationship with all the other animals. We cannot not learn from the other animals all the gifts and all their teachings. This is what shamans do. They look at the animals. They learn from the animals. We cannot live without honoring and respecting the feminine, without bowing to the feminine. Mother Earth, Pachamama herself, is that woman that gives birth from her belly to all of us, to everything that walks upon her. Mother Earth is the one that gives us her nourishment. We're receiving her milk, her nourishment from everything that we eat, we drink, we breathe. And we cannot live and fully understand ourselves if we don't accept magic, if we don't understand how magic works. Even if you want, under the understanding of quantum physics, even if we get into the mechanisms of magic, I don't care how we arrive at understanding magic. It's important, though, to understand it. And as a point of clarification, shamanism is not a cultural thing to be visited like shamanic tourism. Shamans have always been the ones that understand a little bit more than the collective consciousness. It is a fact that for more than 200 years, the collective consciousness has been persecuted. Magic has been put to the fire. Women, animals, and magic have been persecuted to death. It is a fact that we live as scared mammals, abiding to a collective consciousness and agreeing with the collective consciousness just to make sure we're not pushed out of the tribe. And like the Neanderthals back then, we're going to be eaten, we're going to be eaten from a larger predator or lost alone. Magic is real. God is not outside the planet. God is not outside of any molecule that makes a tree, that makes a dog, a cat, a wolf, a jaguar. God is not outside any of your molecules, from your bones, from your eyes, from your hair, from your skin. God is all things. This greater consciousness, the separation that we feel as individuals from the others, is only an illusion. But yet, to the part of it that feels really real, because I'm sitting here and through the camera and you're sitting on the other side of the camera and seeing me somewhere else, that is real. Let me say this, that we share a reality. We share this experience. That sensation of I am is a shared experience. We're sharing this experience, each one of us, at another moment, in another time. The Tao says everything unequal always. So when I look at someone, I can be seeing myself 10 years ago, younger and behaving differently, 20 years ago, or if I can see myself in 10, 15 years, I see an older person, I can see myself in 10 or 15 years. I can see myself in the moment that I was absent-minded and I tailgated in traffic. I can see myself in another moment where I got really sad and was crying. I can see myself when I got angry and lost my control of behavior. I can see myself in all human emotions. All human emotions are beautiful, they're real, and all human emotions are part of the gift of life. There is suffering and there is sense of lack, and that is the premise of all of yoga and all of shamanism, to cultivate the understanding of oneness, to cultivate the understanding of inner balance. I feel again that in the Western world we are very well off. And that can mean many things, politically, religiously, many things. But in essence, to refer to this one point that we're looking at today, shamanism, that is one thing that we're lacking. And that lack drives humans to feel alone, drives humans many times not to seek the correct way of healing, either for psychological ailments or physiological ailments. We can, in the West, keep our life as it is, make the changes we need to make in order to allow the planet to survive and us to survive on the planet. And perhaps we can look into what is missing and what part of consciousness is missing. What have we done unconscious? What moves were unconscious that polluted the seas? What moves were unconscious moves that polluted our waters, our drinking water? How did we burn all the forests, etc.? We have a beautiful life, but we could also bring back those things that were taken away from us to have a more complete life. I can refer a little bit to the Queros of the Quero nations. The Queros were essentially the Inca shamans. When the Queros saw the conquistadors, the Spaniards, coming in the Sacred Valley, they quickly realized what they were dealing with. They saw death was imminent. They saw that these people with the swords are going to take away the god mountains, the feminine and mountains, and they're going to take away the power of the feminine moon, Mamaquilla. They would take away the love from Intitai, that father son that he had for Pachamama and Mamaquilla. The Pacos, the Inca shamans, the Quero nation people, realized Intitai Ta, father son, loved Pachamama, and it's his warmth, Pachamama earth, that she received and gave birth to all things. Their relationship. And within that, there's yet more dynamic of the feminine energy. Mamaquilla, grandmother moon, the wisdom, the power of reflecting, the power of the silver light, the older age, the wisdom and understanding. As the Queros saw the conquistadors coming, they took up to the mountains and hid in the Quero nation villages, 16 villages in heights of 16 to 18,000 feet. They hid there and were never found. They hid there and started coming down from the mountain only in the late 60s and early 70s. My beloved teacher, Don Francisco, came down from the Quero villages at age 30. It was the first time he saw electricity. It was the first time he saw a car. The Queros lived till their late 60s with an ancient language, with an ancient understanding of the magic, of the feminine and of the animals. They lived with a language that was not shifted and a consciousness that was not shifted. Quechua is a very powerful language. It is an ancient language that has not been butchered, has not lost its word magic, its word feminine, its word beautiful power animal. Along with this consciousness and clarity that has not been tinted by the Spanish Inquisition, by the power of those who wanted to wipe out magic from the earth, with the power still in it that was not tinted by the Industrial Revolution and the agriculture in the manner that has been done today, they still live in the same way they have thousands of years, with a consciousness of agriculture in a manner that respects the field, with an understanding of the cycles of the moon, the cycles of the season, with an understanding of three main teachings. Aini means in correct relationship to. It also means integrity or paying it forward. So when I'm in Aini, I am respecting you. I am thanking you before you even give me anything. When I'm in Aini, I offer help. When I am in Aini, I remember my place and I'm always living from a place of gratitude. Another beautiful word that I've learned from my teachers is munai. Munai means love, yet only one part of love. Munai means also, more specifically, stay as you are. And for me, that is perhaps the most beautiful expression of the word love. The word love meaning, I appreciate you for who you are. I admire you for who you are. I am willing to give you affection, hold you, and be with you as you are without you needing to change anything. The Incas come with understanding what we call the Shaman Inca trilogy of Yankai, Munai, Yanchai. And that is the beginning of an understanding of the yogic, if you want, shamanism. The Keros know very well that we live in three perceptual states, in the mind, in the soul, and in the body. And it is that exact philosophy and understanding that the science of yoga has. We perceive a reality through these three medias, three perceptual states. That perceptual state of thinking in the mind, and I think and I'm judging and understanding from all the information I've collected so far, so with my prejudice or with my values. But I also feel the world through my heart. I can love the world, feel the love of the world or the lack of love, and that can make me feel different things. And also through the body, I feel the gravity of the body, I feel the friction of the body. When I fall down, I feel the hunger of the body. And it is like the yogis, the Keros come to an understanding that we need to create this balanced totem of these three power animals. They separate these three levels of consciousness, body, mind, and spirit, into these three totems: the serpent, the jaguar, and the condor. The serpent teaches us how to shed our skin and how to let go of the past. It teaches us when we watch the serpent that we can let go of our skin, we can change, we can let go of previous impressions, may those be pains or traumas or fears. We too have the ability to shed that and let it go and be anew in the world, see and look at the world anew and allow for the world to see us as new. And the serpent also teaches us to love Mother Earth. The shamans in Peru tell me there is nothing like the sensation of being belly to Mother Earth. To feel Mother Earth as a human mother, as she who really gives birth to us, she who really nourishes us, and feel her as that living being and begin to live in a symbiotic relationship, beginning to come back into balance, into Aini, into offering her back instead of taking, understanding that this is not a platform we've come to drill in and take material. This is not a platform we just want to build on, but rather a living being that gives us life and sustains us in life. Mother Earth, the serpent tells us, gives us life, gives us nourishment while we're staying alive, and gives us a home to return our body to when we leave life. We need to sustain the body in a healed state with whole foods and in a Aini, in a correct relationship with seasons and Mother Earth. The second power animal is the jaguar. The jaguar and the puma. And further up north in the mountains, you'll see that the second power animal is the puma, and the more you go down to the jungle areas, it's the jaguar. That big cat that allows us to move. The teachings that the puma gives us and the jaguar gives us is that of no fear. The jaguar is on the top of the food chain. When a jaguar prowls through the jungle, it never needs to look back to see if someone is coming. There is no other predator that will be walking behind a jaguar. It would be foolish to try to walk behind a jaguar. Jaguar is on the top of the food chain. Jaguar is death. So imagine this being, a being that does not have in one cell of its body, in its nervous system, and its endocrine system as a hormone, the sense of fear. And the jaguar comes along and teaches us how to have no fear. The jaguar is the stealthiest animal in the jungle. It is almost impossible to see a jaguar. And what the jaguar teaches us through this is that when a jaguar moves in the jungle, when it hunts, when it's sleeping, when it's purring, when it's swimming, what the jaguar teaches us as the stealthiest animal is that when it hunts, it's not seen. When it sleeps, it's not seen. When it purrs, it's not seen. When it swims, it's not seen. So everything that the jaguar does without the need to be seen, with no ego. It does not expect anyone to say bravo. It does not expect anyone to say that was awesome, that was great, that was this or that. The jaguar moves with what we call in yoga with pure intention. So the jaguar essentially is the power of the mind. It is teaching us how to change literally our mind without the need to be approved by others, and especially to move in making decisions about life without fear. And the third power animal in the totem of the Inca trilogy is the condor. The condor, we look at the condors. We've sat with Don Francisco and Sebastian, with Manuel. We've sat and we watched the condors fly above. We're sitting at 12,000 feet up at the mountain of Morai, and they're flying about 5,000 feet even higher up than us. And when you look at them, you see the condor teaches us the great lesson of rising above and seeing the greater picture of life. As they rise above, they have this great view, not only of the whole sacred valley, but also the sacred river Urubamba, which the shamans called the destiny line. And as the condor rises above, it has the ability to see the whole sacred valley, which is all of your life, and the sacred river Urubamba, which is your destiny line. And as it has the ability to rise above and see the greater picture, from there it allows you to have a bigger understanding of all of life. And the shamans remind us that as the condors are flying above, they're always flying wing to wing with a great spirit. And they're connected with the divine energy. The condor is the soul. Is that belongs and is always with the divine energy, is that sees the whole overview of the whole life, and is the one that walks the destiny line, and is the one that when we can awake, we can choose that destiny line when we have the ability to rise above, to make wiser decisions, to see who's next to us, to the left, to the right. Which of our relationships are the relationships that are helping us evolve, that are holding us? Which of the relationships are not those symbiotic relationships that are helping us, but rather are the parasitic relationships that are holding us back? Who do we need to bring closer to us? What do we need to change or remove from our life? How can we define where this sacred river, that destiny line we are living, how can we decide where that destiny line is headed to? So like the yogis, the shamans, both bring us two technologies that have been proven through millennia, and they're still around for a very good reason, because they're true, they're real, and that's where they're both sciences. Neither yoga or shamanism need anyone's faith. It is knowledge and it is not faith. It is even more than knowledge, awareness, consciousness that both yoga and shamanism offer us. And it is that gift that if we bring back that one little thing, huge thing that we're missing, to my belief, that we're missing, that I was missing in my life in the Western world. The magic, the love for the feminine and respect, and the beauty and acknowledgement for the other mammals like ourselves, so we learned. Along with the consciousness of bringing together mind, body, and soul to heal all of these three perceptual states in order to become and to rise into an awakened being, to become the shaman. Yoga itself as a practice, the healing and purification from letting go of foods that do not serve, the practices of opening through asana, the meridians, and balancing out the endocrine system, all those things, along with the medicine of the shamans, of lighting a fire to burn old contracts and old belief systems, to watch the animals and learn what is the power animal that needs to be with me and in my heart today, for this day, for this difficulty, for this task. All this information, if we bring it together, we can rise. When all this information comes together, in essence, we have awakened the shaman within. In essence, we become that realized being, the awakened one, the Christ, the Buddha, Krishna, Shiva. I invite you to light a fire and see how you feel in your heart close to a fire, to touch, to feel your pet and see what that connection with an animal feels like for you in the depths of your heart. I invite you to bring in the reality and take a moment and close your eyes, watching the moon, and feel your love for your mother and for your grandmother. And I invite you to perhaps entertain the idea that magic is well alive within each and every breath that you take. That shamanism has always been, that yoga always is, alive in humanity and allowing us to be awakened and giving us the offer of the medicine to heal and awaken in every turn of our life. Thank you for being here with me in this moment. Namaste. And as my beloved teachers say in Quechua, Horpichai Sonkoi, thank you from my heart.